What really happened to Loren Allred after Never Enough became one of the most recognizable songs from The Greatest Showman? The strange part is that Loren didn't disappear after the song became famous. In some ways, the opposite happened. Her voice became more recognizable, her story became more interesting, and eventually she stepped onto the Britain's Got Talent stage to show the world exactly who had been behind that unforgettable performance. But there was a problem. Millions of people knew the song. Millions knew the voice. Far fewer knew the name Loren Allred. And that gap between being heard and being recognized would shape the next chapter of her career in a way most people never saw coming. Before the world knew Loren as the singer behind Never Enough, she had already spent years developing herself as a professional vocalist. She wasn't an overnight discovery. She had trained, performed, auditioned, and worked toward opportunities in the music industry. That matters because the story is often misunderstood. Loren didn't suddenly appear in Hollywood and become successful because of one lucky song. She had already built the skills necessary to deliver a demanding vocal performance. Then came The Greatest Showman, and everything changed. In the movie, Rebecca Ferguson played Jenny Lind, but Loren Allred provided the singing voice for the character. That detail completely changes the way you look at Never Enough. When audiences watched a scene, they saw an actress portraying a famous singer. What they heard was Loren. Her voice carried the emotional weight of the performance, and the recording became one of the most memorable musical moments in the film. Suddenly, Loren's vocals were reaching an enormous audience. But there was an unusual twist. The audience didn't necessarily know who they were hearing. Never Enough became bigger than just another soundtrack song. It became the kind of performance people searched for, shared, replayed, and tried to sing themselves. Loren had delivered a vocal that demanded attention. Yet her name wasn't always attached to the moment in the minds of casual viewers. This is one of the strangest realities of working behind the scenes. Your contribution can become famous while you remain relatively anonymous. People can know every word of your performance and still have no idea who actually sang it. And that created a very unusual career situation for Loren. She had something that most aspiring singers would dream of having, a globally recognizable performance. But she didn't have the same level of personal recognition that normally comes with a hit song. The voice belonged to Loren, but the public story belonged to the movie. The character belonged to Jenny Lind. The face on screen belonged to Rebecca Ferguson, and Loren was somewhere behind all of it. That wasn't necessarily a failure. It was simply the reality of how the production worked. But it meant her biggest opportunity also left her with a new challenge. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 2022, Loren appeared on Britain's Got Talent. And this time, she wasn't hidden behind a movie character. She wasn't an anonymous studio vocalist. She was standing on the stage under her own name. When she performed Never Enough, the audience wasn't just hearing a familiar song. They were discovering the singer responsible for the vocals they had already heard in The Greatest Showman. For many viewers, that realization was the real surprise. Suddenly, the story became personal. Loren wasn't simply performing a famous song. She was reclaiming the spotlight around a performance that had already defined part of her career. The BGT audition gave viewers something they had never really had before, a direct connection between the voice and the person. Her face, her name, and her voice were finally connected in one moment, and that changed how people talked about her. But there was something else hidden inside that success. Britain's Got Talent could introduce Loren to millions of viewers, but it couldn't guarantee that those viewers would stay interested after the audition. Talent shows are built around moments. A powerful performance can explode online, create headlines, and attract new fans. But once that moment passes, the artist still has to answer the harder question: what comes next? For Loren, that question was particularly important because she already had a signature song. Never Enough was both an advantage and a challenge. It gave her an unforgettable calling card, but it also meant people could easily reduce her entire career to one performance. Every new song could be compared to it. Every major vocal moment could be measured against it. And every time someone mentioned Loren Allred, there was a good chance Never Enough would be mentioned too. That is where her career after the song becomes much more interesting. Loren didn't need to prove that she could deliver a massive vocal. She had already done that. What she needed was an identity beyond the song. She needed audiences to become interested in Loren Allred as an artist, rather than simply as the singer behind a movie soundtrack. Her work after The Greatest Showman and her BGT appearance has therefore been about expanding that identity. She has continued performing, releasing music, collaborating, and building a career that isn't dependent on recreating one famous moment. That's a slower process than going viral, but it can be much more valuable in the long run. A viral performance gives you attention. An artistic identity gives people a reason to stay. And this is where many viewers misunderstand what happened to Loren after Never Enough. She didn't simply vanish. She wasn't someone who had one lucky break and then disappeared from the music industry. Her path was more complicated.
Presenter TV, she had already been working professionally, and the huge success of Never Enough created a strange situation where her voice was more famous than her name. Britain's Got Talent helped reverse that relationship. Instead of asking, where did Loren go? A better question is, why didn't more people know Loren's name sooner? Because the evidence tells a different story. She was working, she was performing, she was building experience. The problem wasn't that her career stopped. The problem was that public recognition didn't always follow her work. And there is a deeper lesson in that. The entertainment industry often makes audiences believe that fame and success happen at the same time. They don't. A singer can be successful without being famous. A performer can work on major productions without becoming a household name. Someone can contribute to a song heard by millions while remaining almost invisible outside the credits. Loren's story is a perfect example. Never Enough gave her a global platform, but it didn't instantly transform her into a celebrity. BGT gave her another platform, but it didn't magically finish the job either. It gave her an opportunity. The rest depended on what she did with that attention. That is why the period after BGT matters so much. The audition itself was the easy part compared with what came afterward. Loren had to move from being a surprising discovery to being a lasting artist. She had to make people curious about what she could do next.
She had to show that there was more to her than the huge note everyone remembered. And maybe that's the biggest twist of all. Loren Allred's career wasn't really about finding success after Never Enough. She had already found success. The challenge was making that success belong to her name. Think about it. You may have heard Loren's voice years before you ever saw her perform. You may have watched The Greatest Showman and remembered Never Enough without knowing the singer behind it. Then you may have watched Britain's Got Talent and realized that the voice you already knew belonged to a real artist standing right in front of you. That changes the entire story. Loren wasn't trying to become the singer behind Never Enough. She already was. She was trying to become Loren Allred. And that distinction is what makes her journey worth watching. One song gave her a voice heard around the world. Britain's Got Talent gave that voice a face and a name. But building a career that survives beyond one unforgettable performance is a completely different challenge. So what really happened to Loren Allred after Never Enough? She didn't disappear. She entered a more complicated stage of her career. First, she became the voice behind a massive Hollywood moment. Then she became the woman audiences finally discovered on Britain's Got Talent. And after that, she faced the hardest part, proving that the name Loren Allred could stand on its own.
Presenter TV. Because sometimes the biggest obstacle isn't getting people to hear you, it's getting them to remember who they heard. And Loren Allred's story may be one of the clearest examples of what happens when a voice becomes famous before the person behind it does.